Hello and welcome back to Scottish Independence Podcasts. We're back in Brussels. This trip has been organised by Yes for EU and Europe for Scotland, groups who do sterling work in the campaign to get Scotland back into the EU. I've just got off the flight from Edinburgh with Dr. Philippa Whitford, Marlene somewhere under the Channel.
Sam and I are now on the Eurostar, going over to Brussels to mark the 10th anniversary of the Brexit vote.
And who could forget?
The people of Scotland, along with the people of Northern Ireland and the people of London, and lots of people in Wales and England also, voted to remain within our family of nations. Scotland did not let you down. Please, I beg you, chers collègues, do not let Scotland down now.
We've arrived just as Brussels is sweltering in the grip of a heatwave. Temperatures forecast to be around 37 degrees, which for Scottish people is hard going, I'll tell you.
This is our Brussels vlog. It will give you a flavour of the trip, and then we'll have 2 follow-up podcasts where we'll focus on the main events that happen.
Lots of yeah.
Well done. 10 years ago, today, 23rd of June, 2026, what happened 10 years ago?
The English people voted us out.
Exactly.
I mean, I didn't vote for Brexit, obviously, but yeah, I was there, and it was awful. I mean, people were crying. It was just horrendous. And I campaigned with my local Tory MP, even though I was in the Green Party, and we were devastated.
The Scots voted 2/3 almost to stay. And has it been great? Hasn't it been the best thing ever? We don't think so. I stayed up all night. I couldn't believe the results coming through. I was still up at 7 o'clock in the morning. My husband came through the door and I went, "Do you know what's happened?" He went, "Yeah." And then he said, "Okay, we just need to be independent, don't we?" He's an English Scot, so actually that was a little bit of a turnaround, I have to say. But yeah, so 10 years ago today, folks.
We're here to commemorate, I suppose.
Certainly not celebrate.
No, not celebrate. Brexit 10 years on. And to explain to MEPs that actually the situation has moved on, and now we have 3 First Ministers in the devolved nations, and they all want to rejoin the EU.
Minute planning session before
Me filming, Fiona filming.
Good morning, Marlene.
Oh, Luke, it's Jane. Now, we saw that great podcast about the French festivals on celebrating Scottish culture. You will recognise Jane.
Somewhat bittersweet 10th anniversary of the Brexit vote. A painful vote, and Britain is still writhing, and Scotland as well. So.
Yeah, well, obviously, normally we mark anniversaries that we're sort of celebrating, whereas obviously this is something that we're mourning. For me, it's almost hard to believe it's 10 years on. It dominated so much of my time in Westminster because the referendum was just a year after I arrived. And of course we warned about some of the things that would be lost, some of the things that would become more difficult. All of that has come to pass. I always thought that one of the mistakes was the UK government, particularly Cameron's government, reran Project Fear from the Scottish independence referendum. So it was all about, oh, the sky will fall. Whereas myself and other doctors were trying to highlight all the amazing stuff we've gained by being in the EU, and we've lost a lot of that. And sometimes even people haven't realised that we've lost it. I mean, the issue in England with sewage in the rivers and in the beaches is we're no longer under the EU regulations about clean water and clean environment. So there's things that were protecting us that we're now not protected by.
Yes, it is quite an emotional kind of day, isn't it? So we're going to the Parliament today. We've got an event this evening, which you're one of the speakers on a panel. There are 4 speakers, one from each part of the UK, and we're now, of course, in this situation where 3 of those 4 parts actually don't want to be in the UK in one way or another. So do you think that changes the world for us significantly?
Oh, I think it does. I mean, all 3 governments that lead Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland want to be back in the EU. So that's very clear. So even though Wales at the time, the people of Wales did vote for Brexit, they have shifted considerably. The support to rejoin in Scotland and Northern Ireland is about 73%. It's mid-60s for Wales and mid-50s for England. So even in England, it has changed, but it's not as strong as in the other three Celtic nations. I think for us who support Scottish independence, what it changes, and this is quite important, is we're no longer an isolated target. It's been easy for mostly the Conservatives who've been in power, but now Labour, to simply describe Scotland either as rubbish, which is what we had for years at Westminster. So it's been a single target that they could bully and pick on, whereas now they have to aim that at the three devolved nations, and that's a lot harder to do. So I think the solidarity, and it's quite important, of the three Celtic nations to build that common solidarity. So although Northern Ireland has an obvious route through unification, Wales, the Welsh government feel they have to work through more devolution first, that their population are not as far on as us in thinking about independence, whereas we want independence. What they all want is self-determination, that they have the right to choose their own future, not someone sitting in London who's completely divorced from the reality of these three nations.
And that's always been our problem, isn't it? Because of the numbers, we get what England wants.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened with Brexit. People will have forgotten that Nicola Sturgeon was pushing that in the Brexit referendum, all four nations had to vote for Brexit to happen, and David Cameron refused. I mean, he just thought it was an easy deal, and you know, there's no way that people would vote for Brexit. So he was pretty cavalier about it. But yes, and it's not even the UK Parliament, it's a Prime Minister. You know, Keir Starmer says no. Who are you to say no? Do you think you're King Canute? You know, trying to stop the waves? I mean, it's that the kind of Scotland's democratic deficit becomes more obvious now that it is the three nations in a Celtic alliance. And because I'm from Belfast, the issues around Northern Ireland and Brexit have been very acute for me. And the fact that the Conservative government used Northern Ireland as a stick to hit the EU over the head with is something I'll never forgive them for, because it definitely has brought tensions much closer to the surface after the achievement of the Good Friday Agreement. And the issue there is the UK government and the Irish government are meant to be honest brokers of the Good Friday Agreement. And yet we had Conservative ministers going to Northern Ireland and only meeting unionists. We have a Labour government who says, no, we won't support a border poll in Northern Ireland. We won't support unification, but we won't actually allow that to happen. I'm sorry, that's part of an international treaty. So, you know, we really have this anti-democratic approach of the UK government towards Scotland and Northern Ireland, and it's just not going to run really in the long term.
Politics moves quickly, doesn't it? So since we left Scotland yesterday, we have a new Prime Minister just in the wings. Do you think Andy Burnham has got any different thoughts on Europe?
I think he probably has different thoughts on Europe. I mean, I think Keir Starmer was particularly some of it was more a cowardness, not being willing to kind of go for it, you know, tiptoeing around the issue, even when in England we could see support for Brexit gradually weakening and disappearing. I think Burnham might be more outspoken, but obviously wasn't in the Makerfield by-election because he was afraid of upsetting Reform voters or whatever else. And the problem with Andy Burnham is we have seen him make U-turns already, such as the WASPy women, and also commit to Rachel Reeves' spending plans, etc., regardless of the harm they're doing. And so the worry is, you know, is it just Keir Starmer with a bit more charisma and a northern accent? And the kind of nonsense that some of them are saying, oh, he understands Scotland because he's from the north of England. we're a lot further north. We're the true north. You know?
Yeah, that just shows he doesn't understand Scotland and he thinks it's equivalent to the north.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we'll wait and see. You have to give people a chance. It's hard to imagine it can be worse than Keir Starmer. The question is, can he learn from what's gone wrong for Keir Starmer? You know, Keir Starmer recently claimed his proudest movement was getting rid of the two-child cap. He could have done it instantly, whereas he not only didn't support our motion to have it done, he actually threw out 7 of his new MPs who lost the whip because they supported getting rid of it. And he followed it quickly with, let's cut the winter fuel allowance, and then let's have a major attack on disabled people. You know, so he totally went down a bizarre line, and particularly not something I think Labour supporters were expecting. And here he is less than 2 years later. And, you know, by the time I switched my phone back on, he was gone.
It was interesting that the national newspaper yesterday had fact-checked his leaving speech, his resignation speech, and there was quite a lot of bits in it that he was claiming success for things that we would not consider.
Well, I mean, one of his remarks was about how he had stuck with international law, when in actual fact he has been majorly complicit in the genocide in Gaza. As you know, I used to live and work there. I've lost friends and colleagues to the genocide. And I'm not sure whether he didn't recognise the strength of feeling regarding what's been happening in the Middle East. But right from his comments about Israel having the right to withhold water and fuel, etc., through to still providing weapons to Israel. So to then claim that he had followed international law. The Genocide Convention is very clear. Every country that has signed it has a duty to prevent genocide, not just bitch about it when it's over.
And not to supply weapons to make it happen
Certainly
as well.
not to supply weapons.
So we shall see, again, if Andy Burnham is any different. So just final question then before we head off into the very, very oppressive. How do you think you'll feel when we walk back into the Parliament building?
I've been in the Parliament building since Brexit went through. I was Europe spokesperson for 2 years for the SNP at Westminster. So I have been back over since. And obviously it's always great to meet with the Green and independent supporting MEPs. There's always a kind of enthusiasm and a camaraderie when you meet them. But yes, the fact that we're not there, I don't know whether UK governments have recognised how much we've lost. It's not just, oh well, okay, we don't attend that, but we go to this other meeting. It's what happens informally. It's the having a chat with someone over coffee about something you need to tackle. It's the informal relationships and sympathy and respect that you build up around working together. And obviously all of that is lost. And of course, in the current world security situation, being outside, not being part of Europe, I think is a big mistake of the UK, and I think they are beginning to recognise that. So I think they will try to limp their way back, but with the threat of Farage coming in 29, there's no way they'll go very far. There's no way either Labour or any other party will want to go too far. And I don't think Europe would want to go through all the waste of time that they went through with Brexit unless the UK, and what we're talking about here is England, has reached a strong consensus. Not just, 55% would consider rejoin, but that falls to 35% unless they get all the goodies that they had before.
So does that then mean, do you think, that they would be willing to focus more on Scotland, an independent Scotland coming back into Europe?
Well, certainly when I was visiting Brussels or some of the European capitals and meeting politicians, particularly in Germany, which I know quite well, there was a huge sympathy for Scotland. I mean, right from when they saw that map the morning after the Brexit vote 10 years ago, they finally recognised that Scotland is a different country with different aspirations. And so they're not going to deliberately upset England. They weren't going to deliberately upset the UK while it was still a member. But I think the sympathy and the welcome is there. And I think with the potential for Iceland voting to move into the EU, and the accession talks for Eastern European countries, I think actually the EU is much more open to flexible accession than maybe they would have been 10 years ago. So I think they'll be very open. And Scotland's not going empty-handed. We know what we'll get back, but from our energy production, from our geopolitical position in the Greenland-Norway gap, from our tech, from our science, from our space industry, Scotland brings a lot to the table. We're not going to Europe with a tin cup.
Indeed. And as the Tartan Army have shown, we are a nation.
As we've shown even for the EU, no Scotland, no party.
Well done.
Yes, so we can boogie. There's the European Parliament. 27 nations, all cooperating, arguing, negotiating with one another. I just wish Scotland was part of that.
Here's us walking back into the Parliament building where we were last year, the Spinelli building. Oh, it just always feels so emotional to be here.
Some of us are now in the square in front of the European Parliament building. Europe, you need Scotland back in. So, yellow stars, blue background, yellow stars, blue background. That's Ewan and Fiona and Philippa.
No Scotland, no party.
You have to sing it.
That one again.
Come on, you have to sing it.
No, we'll just
No
say it.
Scotland, no party.
No, I think it sounds better saying it.
Here we are reminding the European Parliament that we're still here and we're still keen.
Our message to the EU, you've been keeping a light on for Scotland. You need us. No Scotland, no party.
And amazingly, they still let us in the building.
Here we are in the European Parliament building, and there's Fiona chatting to a lady with a kilt. This is the lady we are about to interview.
And the reason we have a piper in the Parliament is because earlier 2 pipers gave a performance outside the Commission building, a very dashing looking piper from the Clan Hay band.
Good morning, Edvig. Thank you so much for coming. This is very exciting to be here, and you'll be here's your co-piper right now.
I'm very excited about it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
I would love Scotland to join the EU.
Yeah?
I'm really a big EU supporter.
Oh, yes.
And actually I would like the whole of the UK to join the EU.
Yes.
To be joined the EU.
I think Scotland would like that too.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yes.
I hope so.
Yes.
Really.
I think Scotland sees what Europe can be, and it sounds like it's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and also Europe needs Scotland.
Yes.
Europe needs Scotland. Europe needs the UK.
That's interesting, because we don't often hear that. Why do you say that?
Well, the more we are, and the UK and Scotland are important countries.
Yes.
And the stronger the more we are, the stronger we are.
Yeah.
So if someone believes in the European project, which has brought a lot of benefits, I believe, to the European people, and it's necessary, someone should support this initiative.
Yeah, okay. And so you like
I love
the
it.
sound of the pipes?
Yes, I love the pipes. I know the Scottish national anthem by heart, by accident. I have a very good friend.
Oh, that's
I'm
wonderful.
from Greece.
Oh, it's Haristo.
And I have a very good friend, Scottish friend in the island I live.
Oh,
And he told me the Scottish national anthem.
oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's
So I feel
beautiful.
like Scottish a bit.
Oh, well, it's very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice
What
to
is your
meet you.
first name?
Kostas.
Kostas. Thank you, Kostas. Thank you.
I'm John Grieve.
And in fact, you're just on a delegation. You're from Scotland, and you're on a delegation today?
That's correct, yes, going to Scotland House.
Right.
Here in Brussels, so incredible to stumble across this event.
Yes, you came across, suddenly see the pipes, and you hear Flower of Scotland and the European anthem, and what does that do for you? I mean,
Well, I, of course, feel very proud to see Scotland represented here, and yeah, it's fantastic that this message is going out, and yeah, great to have come across it and to have met you. So yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got involved with today?
Thank you for asking. Today is the 10th birthday of the Brexit, and I belong to a pipe band, and we practice Scottish music, and we are interested also in Scottish values and culture. I am one of the French ambassadors selected by Europe for Scotland to wear a message from Scotland about our interest in Scotland. And I have 4 pipes at home, and I wonder which one I could take, and I took the little one without drums, because I think as a symbol this pipe is like Scotland, without drums, without the possibility to express fully. We love to play Scottish music. It is pure war. I played Old and Sign, the song written by Robert Burns in memory of the Old Alliance. It is a very symbolic song, and the special link between France and Scotland. Scottish are our most important friends in the story.
Yes.
The second song we were playing was the European anthem.
Ode to Joy.
Yes, Ode to Joy, right, about the friendship between all people and the world, and I think it's a good message. What all the Old Ensign and European anthem, because Scotland have been deprived of the possibility to belong to Europe, and it is not the choice of Scottish people, and so to play first Old and Sign means that we don't forget the alliance, and we want, if possible, that Scotland could come to Europe again. That is why we wanted to play in front of the European Parliament.
That's great. That's a lovely story. So thank you for the interview, but thank you also for the support you're showing to us in Scotland. We do appreciate.
What I wanted to add, just one thing. As soon as Scotland will be in Europe, I will take my island bagpipe and play the same song in front of the Parliament.
That would be wonderful. Yes, we'll be there. We'll film that.
Then it will be the festival.
Yeah. Now we're off to meet Thomas Waitz MEP.
He's also an ecological farmer, and he's a definite friend of Scotland. We had a great discussion with him, and we'll show you all of that in the next podcast.
But here's a little taster.
And in Scotland, I mean, I've read that there's a new initiative once again to get the permission from Westminster to hold another referendum.
Well, there was a vote in Parliament. The first vote in Parliament after the election was on having another referendum, and that was supported by the majority, because we have a majority of independents supporting MSPs. but the Westminster said no within 15 minutes. I mean, it's so totally disrespectful.
Yeah.
And then Johnson, as a trade route.
It's the fact that Iceland is reconsidering and holding a referendum this summer. Is this bringing dynamics to this discussion?
I think so. I think also the EU, I mean, even Barnier saying, well, you know, maybe not the rebate, but things like, you know, being outside Schengen because of the common travel area, and yes, technically signing up for the euro, but not having to rush into it. These things would be available to the UK. It's as if the EU, in trying to accept Ukraine, Moldova, but also Iceland, there's a different willingness inside the EU in the current geopolitical crisis of Trump on one side and Putin on the other, that I think the EU recognise the EU is stronger by allowing people to come together. So I think actually Iceland does contribute to that.
Yeah, because I mean, if you don't understand that we need to stand together in these times, you know, then I think you're not a skilled politician anyhow. You know, it's just a matter of fact. We can debate what forms of cooperation, we can debate what legal formats we find, but there's a common sense in the moment, and that interesting for me also that includes also rather right-wing parties. I would not say the extreme right, because they're not ticking along pragmatic reasoning anyhow, but like Meloni, as an example, or Polish Peace Party, both not parties I very much like or like their political program, but they have understood that this is not a question of left and right. This is a question of whether we stand in this world or we do not, or we lose. We lose our position, or we lose our economic grip. We lose our ability to co-decide where this planet goes to.
Well, as you said, you know, the disaster of Brexit has been a warning.
Fantastic learning. Thank you for this.
to other countries.
You know where my office is. I'm approaching. You know that I'm a supporter, and please approach me when I can be of help.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And keep up the motivation. Please keep up the motivation.
Yeah, so that was really good of Thomas Waitz coming in and spending quite a chunk of his time actually to be here. Really good hearing the interaction between you, Philippa, and him. How do you feel after that?
Well, I think that, I mean, that was incredibly generous for him to be with us for a whole hour. I think also both his green background, the background as an organic farmer, and therefore seeing both the impact on himself, but also on people in the same position. Because as we were talking about, I mean, Michael Gove completely forgot about things like organic farming. For Scotland, completely forgot about seed potatoes, where we play a crucial role in the world. And so, you know, I would say farmers and fishermen in Scotland and the UK are the ones who were misled the most and actually have suffered among the most because of Brexit. So it was interesting, you know, to talk about that. But I think also his bigger picture about what Europe needs to do. Europe needs to be more welcoming, more open to expansion, and also sending out the message to people of the importance of the EU. And as I was saying, I don't think they do that enough. I don't think they blow their own trumpet, and I don't think they reach out enough to whether it's the UK or Scotland or Northern Ireland.
Yeah. You do make a good point, though, that they've got to get through the wall of the right-wing British media. Last year when we were here, we were talking about possibly some of the MEPs coming over on project-by-project things to Scotland.
We had it all set up, but unfortunately the person at this end who was in charge didn't deliver. But yeah, we had all sorts of opportunities, you know, especially discussing around Erasmus, about organic farming itself. And there were various, as you know, we had a whole file of things we were going to do.
Because someone had reached out to me saying, you know, if we get MEPs over, would you meet them?
Yes,
and I said absolutely, and that's even when I wasn't very mobile. But you know, my husband said, I'll drive you to wherever. So I would have been totally up. As I say, I spent 2 years as the SNP Europe spokesperson in Westminster, kind of through the last month or so of up to the point of Brexit, but also all the fallout afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we don't give up on that plan.
Yeah, maybe Roger would be up
Yeah.
for it, because he was on the sidelines then, but now he seems to be more proactive, so we
Yeah.
can ask him if there's an opportunity. Yeah. That would make such a difference. And also, they talked about the emotion of it.
Yes.
Feeling a belonging to Europe, not the USA, which I think goes down pretty well in Scotland.
Oh, I mean, Scotland is a European nation and has
Yeah.
been for centuries,
Yeah.
but I think it's still very easy for our media to spin that story of Scotland would be unwelcome in Europe. Scotland would never get into the EU, whereas when you're actually showing here are MEPs taking the trouble to come to Scotland and take part in events, that changes that message. And so long as you make the most of any event, that you get that out among Scotland. And it's important that we get those messages. I mean, we've had it from, a few voices over the years, but it's always very quickly quashed.
Yes.
So I think it would be worthwhile.
I think that's true, and I think that one of the things that, Scottish Government, the SNP party and the Greens as well, just need to be better at blowing their own trumpet. And I understand that they're running a country and they've only got 60 odd MSPs, so not a lot of bandwidth, but I'm sure there must be some better setup that would just get that message out.
Well, there is still, for the Scottish Government and the SNP, and I know that, that nearly all of our media is anti-Scottish Government and anti-SNP.
Yes,
but when I was at Westminster, people would say, why are you not talking about this one? And I would say, you do know we put out 5 press releases a day and they get nowhere. And actually the most successful thing was when you got a chance, as I did then, and Stephen Flynn does when he gets a chance, is actually being on things like Question Time, being on Politics Live, because they do have a big audience. And I remember when I did Question Time in 2019, having very obvious unionists coming up to the stall I was running in that election, who I know wouldn't even have answered the door to us. But they wanted to come up and ask you about it. So you said this on Question Time, and you were very good, but can I ask you about this? So, there's research to show that actually of all the things we do, street stalls are at the bottom, but actually at the top is kind of high audience broadcast news. So actually is getting people out who are not willing to put up with rubbish from the interviewer, who are willing to kind of rebut and argue back and to make sure they squeeze in the point of our view and where we stand on immigration, where we stand on the EU, where we stand on human rights.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose thinking about that, that's where, say it's Question Time, so if it's in Scotland, we always think there's a disproportionate number of this in it. But in a way, that can work to your favour if you've got them coming up with their side of the argument, as it were, but a good person on the panel, like yourself or Stephen, able to then very publicly.
And Mary McCallan did that. She did that brilliantly.
And she picked up those points and she basically took them apart.
The other thing is also when you do Question Time south of the border, it's a much easier gig, because you're not the target. I mean, I have done any questions and so on. I haven't done Question Time in Scotland, but any questions and other things, and you're the target. And because I'm an MP and not an MSP, I've got Murdo Fraser on one side and Anna Sarwar on the other, and they're talking about what happened in Holyrood last Wednesday, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, what happened in Holyrood last Wednesday? But when you are on a panel in England, as we did get to be for a while, I mean, it's now not so often, is you're not the target, but therefore you get the chance to actually come in on the debate and on the argument in a very free way that is quite good, and often you can engage the audience. I mean, the trick is in the practice question, you need to make the audience laugh, you need to get the audience with you, and depending on the audience, that can be seriously difficult.
Picking up some tips here.
But these are the things that we need to be doing more of. The problem for John is they often will only take 2 sentences from you, and this has happened to me before. You're assuming you might get 3 or 4 sentences, but they ask you a very closed question and you answer that, and then there's another one, and then they go, thank you very much, whereas you had hoped to get something in. And so unless you kind of shoehorn it in
if it's a very narrow, closed question, and they do that deliberately to try and stop you. So sometimes you have to be quite blatant about shoving your point in.
These people are all from Ireland, and ones I saw happened to be Sinn Féin. I'm sure there's other MEPs from Ireland. And then round the corner there was a whole load of information about the Irish Constitution, and there was a sort of pennant thing up on the wall. And maybe there'll be a Scottish corridor then, at some point. That's what we want.
Yes, this is the Irish Declaration of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Irish people is by right a free people.
We're all here having a bit of lunch after a very, very good conversation with Thomas Waitz, who's a European Member of Parliament, and we're going to be hosting some little clip. I think we should see if we could find a Scottish press person.
A Scottish press person. Oh, well, here's a likely-looking young woman.
Yes, I'm Scottish.
You are?
Here's two Scottish press people. Scottish media people.
Scottish media people, yes. Here on a delegation from Scotland to the EU.
And as you can, it's just a busy corridor with if Fiona just moves the camera a little bit, you'll probably be able to see a great array of media equipment. There's a chap over to our left that's doing an interview. And there's all that camera gear.
And Marlene is coveting all that camera gear.
I know I am, but actually I get myself in enough of a kerfuffle actually dealing with our gear, so I'll just leave that one for a different lifetime. So it's been really good this morning. I find it a little bit tiring, I suppose, but...
And the heat.
And Thomas Waitz was a Green MP from Austria. He was waiting for us, and it was really generous of him to give him an hour of his time.
Yeah. And what's always impressive is how well versed he is on our politics and how shamefully, woefully poor our knowledge of European politics is. So it's always a bit of a wake-up call when we come here. And as always, just so welcoming and... everybody, we want you back.
And then, of course, we have Philippa Whitford with us, who, the dialogue between Philippa and Thomas was just fantastic.
Extremely good conversation.
You'll be able to see it once we get the podcast out. But then they also went on to the bigger picture about what Europe needs to do more, what Scotland and indeed England needs to do more. So,
right. And meanwhile, while we were trying to negotiate the Brussels heatwave, action was taking place outside Holyrood as well, organised by Yes for EU. Looks like quite a good turnout. Some of the MSPs came and gave their thoughts as well. And so thanks to SPVR Films for the footage, which will just do a flavour of the event for you. And if you want to see more, we'll put the link to the SPVR website in the notes.
The reason we're here is, of course, the 10th anniversary of Brexit. It's not a celebration. It's not a happy anniversary, but we have to mark the day. It's important. We need to remind ourselves and everybody else of all the damage that's been done by Brexit. And in particular, what led to Brexit, which was a series of blunders and an incompetent system of government. But we don't want to be stuck with that system that is making bad decisions that are badly affecting Scotland. That said, you need to look to the future, and that means we turn up and hold events like this, and we hear speakers, and we get ourselves motivated to keep struggling for the best future for Scotland, which is independence and EU membership.
But look at what's been lost for nothing. And I'm not looking to relitigate old battles, I'm not looking to relitigate old arguments, but I believe in countries working together, I believe in the rule of law, I believe in progress, I believe in solidarity, and I think that's the European Union in action. Is it perfect? No, of course it isn't. Is it the best thing that humankind has come up with to actually avoid war on our continent, to actually work together towards the bigger challenges that are bigger than any one country, however big, however small? And I want Scotland to be part of that. I don't know if you've seen that Andy Burnham, the great saviour, has already today said there's not a compelling argument to revisit EU membership. So thank you for your efforts thus far, but the job's not done yet. Let's keep at it. Thank you.
But that doesn't mean that there's no hope to be able to bring that back for future generations. And I think what we heard at the Scottish Parliament elections and what we've heard time and again is that people are looking for that bit of hope in politics at the moment, and that something good might come down the track. That's why we need to continue that fight, engage more young people, show them what they could have back in the EU, and as an independent country, I think back in the EU with those opportunities, with that good forward-looking opportunities for them and for generations that don't even know what we've lost at the moment. So yeah, keep up the good fight.
We used to have so much freedom to live, work, love, play, visit 27 European countries. We used to be aligned with the most progressive environmentalist bloc of nations on the planet, and now what is left? Kowtowing to Donald Trump. It's really sad, but I am hopeful that our joint need to support Ukraine to tackle big challenges like protecting our seas behind us means that we recognize that we have to realign with the EU and eventually rejoin.
So hello everyone, I'm Sandra Grieve from Yes Tweeddale, also a member for Yes for EU. But what you don't know is my maiden name is Alessandra Barsotti, and I'm a proud Italo-Scot. My parents were immigrants, proud Italians, proud to be considered Italian and Scottish. And even though I've still got my Italian nationality, and so have my children, a bit of me disappeared with Brexit, a bit of my identity, and I see they still have all the privileges that their friends don't have, that my friends don't have, and I think that's wrong. So I'm still fighting for it. I'm fighting for us all to be back in Europe because of that. So let's carry on that fight and let's think of the future and the people to come. Andiamo!
Here's Gillian and Ross.
Great to see all the action there outside Holyrood today, and people obviously feeling very, very strongly as they mark this 10th anniversary of Brexit, which of course Scotland didn't vote for. Nice to see Alan there, and also Gillian, Lorna, Ross Greer in the background as well, so thanks for coming out. Meanwhile, back in Brussels,
we're now on a quest to find the room that we need to be in for the main event that we're filming this evening. It's a bit of a confusing building, but I'm pretty sure that's not the room we're in, Marlene.
you have seen this picture before. You just missed a picture of Fiona demolishing the EU
Yes,
Parliament.
I thought it was a wall. Turns out it's more of a curtain.
It's curtain. But here we are, 1 year later, on the 10th anniversary of that ridiculous decision to leave the EU.
Yeah. And it's heartening how many of the people we've spoken to are just desperate for us to be back. They're very interested in what's happening, especially they spot that we've got a different setup now in the UK with 3 of the 4 parts wanting self-determination over possibly different forms, but the English/UK Parliament position of we say no, go away, it's just not tenable, and
it can't stand. It just can't stand.
It's being seen as undemocratic by people looking in from outside, which is a shameful position for the UK government to be in.
So we're a little bit wabbit because we've been filming. Well, we had a very nice breakfast.
We did
at the cafe Toubon. The taxi driver didn't recognise the name from my French accent, but we got there.
And it was all Toubon.
And it was Toubon. But then we've also been filming upstairs with one of the MEPs, Thomas Waitz. Really looking forward to getting the podcast of that. It was fantastic that he did all that. Anyway, we're away for a wee cup of coffee.
We know. Un café. Café noir.
Un latte, s'il vous plaît. Fiona and I, now fortified with yet more coffee, are making a final effort to find this room. Ah, here it is.
To call this meeting to order.
Let's go with that, and I've got...
I want to propose a motion to, on this 10th... Are you recording?
I am.
On this 10th anniversary of
Brexit of England voting to leave the EU, but not Scotland, we want to propose a motion that we invite Scotland to rejoin as soon as possible, make it clear that we welcome them back to the EU and do everything in our power to help them gain independence.
I think we should.
Those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Well, that was easy.
100%.
Why didn't someone think of that before?
Yeah. Too many men in charge. This is the meeting room that we're about to be in for the panel event. So we're going to have, Marlene is chairing at the moment. We'll see if that continues over the evening. And I am the sole member of the audience at the moment. Whether that continues over the evening remains to be seen as well. So it's a lovely room, and they've got state-of-the-art tech, which we're not going to touch because we don't want to break it. We have had an hour of wandering around the building trying to find this room. But apart from that, we've met some very friendly people.
Completely by coincidence, and they asked why I was in Parliament, so I told them all about Scottish activists, and he said, oh, do you know Alan? And I went, oh, Alan Smith? And he went, yes, Alan Smith, I used to work for him.
To which we replied, yes, we do know Alan, yes. We fortified ourselves with coffee.
Asked Paul how to get here, he went, oh, that's an easy one to get here.
Easy, really. In years to come, they will be telling tales of those two old ladies wandering the corridors looking mystified.
I reckon we've been on Italian TV in the background of Italian TV interviews at least twice.
The main event of our visit was a panel discussion. The event was live streamed. We'll link in the notes. And this is another little taster of the beginning and the end of the event.
Very much. If you allow me to say just a couple of words to open this conference. I don't know whether I have to say glad or disappointed after what we are going to celebrate today, or what we are to commemorate today with the 10th year of the Brexit referendum. But I think it's good that today we have pro-European people who were dragged out of the EU a couple of years ago, and as it was said, when the MEPs left the Parliament, we'll keep a light on in the Parliament, and this house is your house. It will be forever your house until you come back, and you are, the sooner the better for us. But we are really happy to organize this conference with you today, and to hear from your side your perspective and the journey you want to continue now. And I don't want to be too long, but on behalf of my group, the Green Group, we are very happy to hear your voice today in your house. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rocco. Thank you for your hospitality today. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you to all the Scots and Europeans that are following us live on YouTube and on social media. My name is Andrea Pisauro. I am an Italian researcher living in the UK. And I co-coordinate the campaign Europe for Scotland, which was created in 2021 to express European solidarity with Scotland post-Brexit. This event is hosted by the Green IFA Group and organized by Europe for Scotland and Yes for You, which is a Scottish campaign advocating for an independent Scotland to rejoin the EU. And obviously we are here today to remember in the European Parliament a sad anniversary, the 10th anniversary of the Brexit referendum, but most importantly to honor Scottish democracy, Scottish pro-European democratic will, to honor that vote where Scotland wanted to remain, and the 10 years afterwards where the Scottish people maintain that determination, that will, and that connection with the European Union. 10 years on, time to end Brexit. It's a question that we think speaks to our times, and we will discuss it with 4 speakers. one from each of the UK nations. The panel today will include one of the foremost experts on Brexit, the English writer and founder of Open Democracy, Anthony Barnett, the Scottish and Irish politician, former MP and SNP spokesperson for Europe at Westminster, Philippa Whitford, former Welsh MEP for more than 20 years and the first MEP to speak in Welsh in the European Parliament, Jill Evans, and Liam Boylan, MEP for Sinn Féin, that, as we all know, is the Irish Republican Party seeking a united Ireland. So thank you very much to all of you for coming today.
I spoke in Glasgow in the rain on Brexit night 10 years ago, which was actually a heartbreaking night. And it's hard to believe that it is 10 years since that time, that so much time has passed. Your question, is it time to end Brexit? I think undoubtedly. I would say the view from Scotland would be the time to end Brexit was 10 years ago, but we are where we are. It was clear that Scotland considered itself a European nation. We have always considered ourselves a European nation, the old alliance with France. And almost, I would say, during the Brexit debate, people in Scotland didn't see it as quite relevant to themselves because it seemed such a no-brainer. Why would anyone vote to leave the EU? And I remember the shock that went through people after the day after the vote. And equally, my husband's family in Germany finally started to understand that Scotland is a separate nation when they saw that map with a lot of blue Brexit voting areas in England and Scotland entirely yellow. Every single council area had voted to remain. And so the democratic deficit is one of the key reasons why Scotland is and has been and will continue to want to be back in the EU.
I was really pleased today to see that our party leader, our new First Minister in Wales, didn't mince his words either when he said that Brexit would prove to be the greatest act of economic self-sabotage in modern history. And I think that that is right. It is strange coming back to the European Parliament where I was a member for so long. And I believe passionately in European cooperation. But when I was a member here, I often campaigned against EU laws as well. I worked with the European Free Alliance for the recognition of all of the small nations and regions of Europe and all of our languages and cultures. I worked with the Green IFA group for real democracy, better democracy in the European Union. It could be done so much better. But of course, I campaigned against Brexit. And we too see Wales as a very European nation. We are small, we're bilingual, we're outward looking. And it was heartbreaking to see the people of Wales vote, albeit marginally, to leave the European Union. But we never gave up. And I know that soon after the referendum, people in Wales were already changing their minds. And
today, we are in a very different situation because of the tragedy of Brexit. And what this has meant is that today the call for independence in Scotland is not a call to leave, but a call to join. It is a positive call to become part of our home continent. And it is a lesson which the Welsh have learnt, or in some ways are pioneering this, for the English. And one way of putting this is to see that the call for Scottish independence now is a call to lead the archipelago back as independent nations into the European Union. And this poses an issue for the English. They're what I call the Anglo-Brits, and it's quite difficult to understand the Anglo-Brits very often. And the way I put this in a very simple sense is if you were to ask people from Northern Ireland or from Wales or from Scotland, do they feel more Welsh or Scottish or Irish or more British? This is a completely understandable question. And they might say, well, I feel more British, or they used to, than Welsh, but they would now, or they can say, I feel more These are two separate identities, just as you can also feel European. And many of the Anglo-Brits find this very puzzling when I've asked them this question. And I think this is because a kind of fused nationality was created in which the outer side, the obverse of this single coin, was British. It is the British Navy, not the English Navy. But the inside, the lovely interior, is English. It's the English countryside. It's not the British countryside.
Yeah, like nationalism can be seen as a dirty word, and I think that certainly the nationalism that Scotland and Wales and Ireland portrays is a very different type of nationalism. And likewise with the Catalonians and the Galicians and the Basques. And I used the phrase before in a conference, cosmopolitan nationalism, and that's like anybody who comes and wants to, I suppose, believe in the values, a set of values is welcome. So it's not that idea of excluding people, it's very much an inclusive and confident in your own culture, that bringing in new cultures doesn't erode that or dilute it. So I hope we do get into that in the conversation, but I'll go back to the notes I've been given to say, and I'm kind of keen listening that turmoil is the word that sort of has been used, I think, by a number of speakers, and it's hard to say that it's turmoil, and it's still 10 years since the vote, and we're still in this sort of state of flux since Brexit. And certainly from an Irish perspective, we've seen it now as the catalyst, or it has certainly reinforced our campaign around United Ireland, and I'm sure maybe colleagues will say the same around the independence movements, that Brexit was that catalyst for us, that we really kind of in one sense needed it injected into the campaign. But I suppose from an Irish perspective, we're slightly different to Scotland and Wales, because obviously we're on the one island, and that the North has certainly benefited from keeping one foot in the EU and in the single market, and one foot out of it, and it has sort of benefited on both sides for that. Whereas Wales, Scotland, and England have not had that same silver lining as the Windsor Framework gave to Ireland.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to make sure you're following us and subscribe to us, then you get notified every time we put something new out, so you don't miss anything. That would be great. Also, you can click the little bell if you're watching on YouTube.
And sign up for our mailing list. You can do that from the website, and we always send one out at the beginning of each month to tell you what's happening. Last but not least, you can buy us a coffee on coffee.com.